From a two-headed animal that is the first of its kind to a two-headed creature trapped in a perpetual game of tug-of-war, here are 10 weird two-headed animals. Number 10. A two-headed porpoise. Let's start this list off right with a very common animal, that being the arbor porpoise, which lives in northern European continental shelf waters. The fact that it's a two-headed porpoise makes this discovery all the more interesting. Back in 2017, a Dutch fisherman fishing in the North Sea caught something truly weird in his nets. Along with his catch of the day, he found a deformed animal, which was clearly just an infant. Unfortunately, the creature was no longer alive when it was fished out of the sea. Thinking it was illegal to keep such an animal, he subsequently threw it back into the sea, but not before taking a few photos of it. Upon examination of the photos, experts came to the conclusion that what the fisherman found was a baby two-headed arbor porpoise. According to Erwin Kompanji of the National Museum of History in Rotterdam, he says that conjoined twins in whales and dolphins are extremely rare, and he was only aware of 9 other published cases worldwide. Number 9. The two-faced cat. Frank and Louie suffer from the rare and fatal condition called dysprosopia, giving the cats 2 nearly separate faces. The fascinating feline shared 2 functioning eyes, a central eye which was blind, 2 noses, 2 mouths, and 1 brain. There have been many two-faced cats, also known as Janus cats, born over the years. However, they rarely survive for more than a day after their births. This makes Frank and Louie very special because they survived for 15 years. As a kitten, he required a lot of care and attention and was fed every 2 hours with special kitten formula. Eventually, Frank and Louie became strong enough to play with the other cats and became special friends with the family dog. He was even taken out for walks in the neighborhood on a leash. Sadly though, at the respectable age of 15, Frank and Louie fell ill, and they were euthanized and suffering from what veterinarians suspected was a really bad case of cancer. Number 8. The two-headed pig. Two-headed pigs are by far the most common animal mutations that I've encountered while researching for this video. In fact, listing them all would make this video over an hour long, so I decided to give you just a couple of them. First one up is in 2016, when a pig with 2 heads and 3 eyes was born in China's Sichuan province. It quickly became a local celebrity, according to the farmer who owned it. Somebody even offered to buy the piglet for 2,000 yuan, which is around $300 US, but the farmer refused as his son wanted to keep the pig as a pet. And then another two-headed pig was born, this time in the Philippines in May of 2020. It was also born to a farmer who was baffled by the piglet, the likes of which he had never actually seen before. Naturally, the piglet was given the name Co-Pig because it was born during quarantine. Unfortunately though, Co-Pig died only 4 days after being born, despite being given special attention due to its mutation, which is the common life expectancy for animals born with such a condition. Number 7. The two-headed cardinal. Birds are some of the rarest animals found with 2 heads. It must be because that any animal with this mutation really have little to no chance of surviving out in the wild. So when this bird was found in western Massachusetts, it was indeed quite a rare find. What makes this find even rarer and admittedly weirder is the fact that not only that this bird has 2 heads, but it also has 2 beaks as well. April Britt from Northampton noticed that cardinals had been flying around her property. Finding this strange, she went out to investigate what was happening. During her investigation, she spotted this tiny bird on the lower branches in one of the trees. Although still young, it was quite clear that the bird was already a couple of weeks old, which was covered in juvenile feathers. The find itself even made it to the local news, and Britt was interviewed regarding her find. Unfortunately, the bird is not expected to live that long. Experts say that due to its deformity, even flying was an impossible feat. Number 6. The two-headed calf. Lucky the two-headed calf was born at a farm in Kentucky owned by husband and wife Stan and Brandy McCubbin. The couple said that in the 7 years that they've been running the farm, they've never encountered an animal quite like Lucky. Technically speaking, Lucky doesn't have 2 heads, but rather has 2 faces, with 2 mouths, 2 noses, and 4 eyes. Lucky, however, only seemed to have only 1 brain, as when the McCubbins try to feed one mouth, the other mouth moves in unison. This makes Lucky quite an even rarer case of polycephaly. A veterinary team from the University of Illinois grew interested in Lucky and was interested to give her an operation that would potentially prolong her life. The McCubbins were even able to raise $1,200 for the operation. Unfortunately, just 1 week before the operation, she suddenly stopped eating and sadly passed away. She lived 108 days, making her the longest surviving calf born with 2 faces, with the previous record holder only lasting for about 40. Number 5. The two-headed goat. In a small farm in Kazakhstan, a very healthy baby goat was born, but with only one small problem. It had two faces. Much like Lucky the calf that we met earlier on, this kid was born with two faces on one head and seems to be flourishing. In fact, a viral video has done rounds on the internet showing it to be very active. It was even suckling from its mother without any issues. Although it wasn't expected for livestock with these kinds of mutations to rarely live to maturity, there were very high hopes for this one. But unfortunately, our story has a sad ending. Its mother, who initially allowed it to suckle from her, suddenly stopped doing it and even tried to run away from fright. Even so, the farmer didn't separate the mother and kid. And then one night, the mother trampled the kid accidentally while trying to run away from it. A sad ending indeed, which robbed us of the opportunity to see one of these amazing and admittedly weird animals fully grown. Number 4. The two-headed dragon. Dragons are, as far as we know, creatures of myth. No evidence of the existence of dragons has ever been unearthed, much less two-headed ones. So it should be quite obvious that we won't be talking about the mythical creatures, but it's also a fact that two-headed dragons do exist. It's alive and well and belongs to a man who is in the Guinness Book of World Records for owning the largest collections of two-headed animals. Todd Ray, who is incidentally also a Grammy-winning record producer, is also an avid collector of two-headed creatures, and his specimens of two-headed bearded dragons seem to be the crown jewel of his collection. Yes, specimens, he doesn't only own one of them. In 2010, he acquired Lefty and Poncho, and then in 2012, he acquired a second specimen, which he aptly named Jekyll and Hyde. Having two specimens of two-headed bearded dragons may seem excess to you, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Ray is also a proud owner of the only specimen of a three-headed turtle. Unfortunately though, the third-head turtle is the only reason why he didn't make the list. Two-headed animals only, as 3 is a crowd. Number 3. The two-headed turtle. Aside from three-headed turtles, there's also been quite a few cases of turtles with 2 heads, but most of them are of the smaller variety. It's so much rarer to find these kinds of mutations on larger species, so when a baby loggerhead turtle was discovered with 2 heads just a couple of months ago, the news stirred quite a buzz. A sea turtle patrol on Hilton Island in South Carolina discovered an extremely rare 2-headed loggerhead hatchling, which was desperately trying to keep up with its brothers and sisters who were on their way to the sea. It was very alive and energetic, but it had a deformed shell, making movement extremely difficult. The people who discovered the twins, whom they affectionately named Squirt and Crush, say that this is an extremely rare find in their area, with the last discovery happening 15 long years ago. Turtle hatchlings already have a very difficult time in the wild, wherein only 1 in 1,000 are expected to survive to adulthood. If this hatchling wasn't discovered, its chances of survival in the wild are next to none. It's a good thing that the twins were discovered. This should at least give them a better chance at survival. Now it's time for today's best pick. Today's best pick is surely going to make people who are afraid of snakes doubly afraid. Why? Well, it's a snake with 2 heads, of course. Find out more about it next with number 2. The two-headed viper. The Russell's viper is one of the most venomous snakes on the planet. If you get bitten by one of these snakes, you'll experience pain and vomiting alongside kidney failure and death. In fact, they're responsible for thousands of deaths in Asia every year, and that's just from a snake with 1 head. How about from one with 2 of them? In this photo is a very rare specimen of a Russell's viper with 2 heads. It was found and rescued by a team of researchers in Western India. It was rescued because mutations like these are extremely rare and virtually none will survive into adulthood when left out in the wild. The 4-inch-long baby viper was taken to conservation facilities for safekeeping. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. Another two-headed snake. Yet another two-headed snake, but I promise this one's an entirely different story from the previous entry. How's that, you might ask? Well, unlike the previous snake, whose 2 heads are right beside each other, the head of this snake are on either end of its body. Yes, it's a snake with a head for a tail. Both heads are fully functional, with beady little eyes and a flickering tongue and all. Fox Carolina reported that the small snake was found by some workers at the home of Savannah Logan and her brother Preston. The kids said that they had been parading their special new pet at school to show off their friends since it was found. The snake itself was identified to be a rough earth snake, a small non-venomous species of snake that grows to between 7 to 10 inches long. They can be found throughout most of the southern coastal plain of the US and mostly live underground and almost exclusively feed on earthworms. Although both heads look functional, only one seems to be more dominant and dictates the snake's movement. Oh, by the way, the kids named the snake Oreo, and it seems like it's gonna stay with the family for now. Do you know of any other weird two-headed animals? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to check out the channel's other amazing videos. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.